Okay, welcome everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in. Going to be an incredible day today of training and information. First of all, I want to say congratulations. If you haven't already heard, March was our biggest month ever in company history. The size of the company over the last 60 days has doubled now in size. So that means that literally over the last few weeks, we've been growing by 10 to 15% on average over the last 8 weeks, which is wild because we basically had 100% growth from the company over the last 60 days. So when you look at what's starting to happen, these are the early stages of formulation. So today I'm going to go through and I'm going to talk about what the real reason was for our previous company getting to $1 billion. Most people don't know this. Only a handful of people on the inside really know what it was that caused us to get to 1 billion and what created the massive success story that we had. And signing up over 3 million people in over 35 countries. And so I'm going to go through and I'm going to give you really the behind the scenes look at how that happened. But first of all, I want to congratulate everybody that completed round 4 this week of the March Madness competition. I saw several posts. We're going to check everything today, and then tomorrow night we'll have the drawing for everybody that completed round 4, and we will officially announce round 5 right now. And so round 5, obviously the last round, the shot at $10,000. Round 5 is going to obviously be the toughest. Some of these last couple weeks, I feel like were really easy. I mean, all you had to do was do some basic things, nothing complicated. And so round 5 is really going to be about getting some results. So the previous 4 weeks was just kind of activity driven. So this week is all about results. And so here are your requirements for round 5. Okay, round 5 is you have to get 2 of your personals registered for Las Vegas. Okay, so that's step 1. So step 1 is get 2 of your personal enrollments registered for the Las Vegas conference this week. Okay, and you have to submit those. Okay, so you need to submit those to me. You can send it to me through text or through through Instagram at Wes Melcher, or on my Facebook page, Wes Melcher. And you can shoot it to us at concierge@brytelyfe.com. That's our concierge. You can send those 2 names when you get your 2 people registered for Vegas this week, because we will see a lot of people being registered because, as you know, the ticket prices for Vegas for all 3 events are going up tomorrow night at midnight. So starting Monday, the ticket prices, the early bird is sold out. So the prices for all 3 events will be $159. So you have literally 48 hours left to get your tickets for $99. So I would accomplish that today. And the second thing you have to do, this is it, to complete round 5. And remember, each round is independent. So even if you're out of the running for the shot at $10,000, you can still complete round 5 and go into the drawing for the VIP birthday ticket celebration. Remember, which is drinks and appetizers. We're going to have a cake. And so you're getting a +1. So you get 2 tickets if you're drawn. So for anybody who completes round 5, you're going into the drawing. So don't be discouraged because you missed out on the first few rounds, okay? Or think that you're out, because every round is independent. So literally all you have to do is get 2 of your personals signed up for Vegas and then turn them into me. And you have to rank up. So whatever your rank is right now, if you're not ranked, okay, get to Life for 300. If you're at Life for 300, get to Life for 800. If you're at Life for 800, get to Life for 1600. And so and then of course, everybody at Life for 3000 is going to the party anyway. So if you rank up and get your 2, you will go into the drawing for the tickets next Sunday night. So this Sunday, we'll have the drawing for everybody that completed round 4. Next Sunday, we'll have the drawing for everybody that completes round 5. And then we will announce if anyone has made the challenge for all 5 rounds to get the shot at $10,000 in Vegas. So we'll announce that next Sunday night. So before we get into the training for today, I just want to tell everybody one more time, congratulations on the massive amount of work and success and sales that everybody is putting in. I know that right now, the people that I'm talking to, they're on here live right now, are really the one percenters. And people talk about the 80-20 rule, but I really think it's like the 99-1. You have 1% of the people that really honestly do 99% of the work. And I always considered myself a one percenter. And so part of what we're going to talk about today is kind of this idea of looking at your business as a CEO and really understanding why it's growing or why it's not. Okay. And so we're going to talk about the secret. Okay. And what I realized while I was building a team of over 365,000 people in my last business and how I was able to do it. And so today is going to be all about that mentality. And so I'm talking to you that are here live today because I know you're committed and I know you're doing the things that we're going to be talking about, and you're wanting the extra information. You're wanting the extra guidance. And so don't forget, tell your team tomorrow night, and I'm going to send another reminder out about this today, that the new mentorship group kicks off tomorrow night after our weekly Sunday night Zoom. So we do the regular corporate call at 7 p.m. Central, which is 8 p.m. Eastern. And then we do our first Zoom of the week, which the Sunday night Zooms have been packed. And remember, we talked a couple of weeks ago about how it's important that everybody gets on the Zooms. Even if you don't have guests, get on for the energy, for the excitement, to represent your city. This is Spirit Week, right? And a lot of you still haven't been posting your gear or got your gear. This is March Madness. People are wearing their swag, representing their team, their pride. And so you want to make sure you get your gear. So go to brytelifegear.com, get your gear so you can represent. But tomorrow night, we're going to be kicking off that new mentorship series. And so we had tremendous results from the first mentorship group that I worked with. And so we are going to be recording this. We're going to be meeting only twice a week. So it's going to be Sunday night and Wednesday night, all right? And it's going to be at 8:30 p.m. So 8:30 p.m. Central, which is 9:30 p.m. Eastern. That is going to be the two calls every week. So Sunday and Wednesday. And the first one is tomorrow night. So day one is tomorrow night. So 7 o'clock Central is the corporate call. We've got some announcements, recognition, some stuff about Vegas. Then at 8, we'll do the Zoom. And then immediately following that Zoom, so at about 8:30 Central, 9:30 Eastern, we'll get on the line, and you want to go register at neteasymarketing.com. And I'll put it in the chat here really quick so that you can see it. I'm going to put this out on the groups later today. All right, so it's in the chat, neteasymarketing.com. That's where you'll register for the Zoom. And that's where you'll log in to get onto the mentorship calls on Sunday and Wednesday. So we're excited about that. So with that said, today we're going to talk about the secret to $1 billion. And if you've heard me talk about my previous company, you know that there were a lot of things that we did right, but there were a lot of things that we did wrong. And it was really honestly a miracle that we were able to do what we did and get that company to $1 billion in annual revenue. In 2016, our best year, we did over $900 million in revenue. We were the fastest growing direct sales company on the planet for 2 out of 3 years. Okay, number 1 on the DSN top 100, fastest moving companies. So it was tremendous growth. But here's what a lot of people don't realize. You know, we were a travel club. We only had one product. It was group travel. But really what we became was a culture company. It was all about culture. And that's one of the reasons why I asked Tiffany last weekend to share about what she's been doing inside of her organization and with her team to build culture and to get people engaged and to get people plugged in, okay? Because that was really the secret to my previous company getting to $1 billion in annual revenue and doing over $4 billion over the 13 years that I was there. And so what I realized early on was that it was important for people to stay plugged in, because here is one of the biggest problems with network marketing, okay? Most people do not get direct access to the story. Okay. They don't get to talk to the founder, the owner, a life for 3,000, a life for 1,600. And eventually these are going to be influencer 15,000 and, up to 500,000. Most people hear about these opportunities. Okay. This is the common theme. All right. From someone that they grew up with, a neighbor, a cousin, a friend, a family member, a coworker. And so what happens is you have layers of separation. Okay, so you have a layer of separation wherever you hear about it. And this also matters when you hear about it. This is one of the things, people talk about how it's important to get in early, right? Well, part of the reason, and see, most people don't realize this, part of the reason why it's so important to get in early is because when you get in early, you have less layers of separation, kind of like 6 degrees of separation, or like the joke when I was growing up was 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, because you could basically get to every person in Hollywood from 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, because Kevin Bacon was in a lot of movies. And so you talk about 6 degrees of separation. So right now, here's what's crazy. Most of you on this training, and will be watching this training, are only probably 1 or 2 levels of separation from me. Okay, where the idea started, the genesis, the concept, the creation, the person orchestrating everything. In fact, most of you probably have my phone number. Okay, you have my phone number. You can text me. Your upline or your sponsor or whoever you're working with in your market is working directly with me. So therefore, there's only like one layer of separation, maybe none. I mean, you're directly to the source. And so people think, well, getting in early is because, you get in and then you benefit from everybody joining after. That's not actually the case. The real reason why getting in early is such a massive advantage is because you get direct access to the people that are building it, that are making it happen, that are making it grow. And so the problem is, as we get bigger, the layers of separation, the degrees of separation get larger. And so then that means that a year from now, when people are joining, they're not going to have my phone number. They're going to be 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12, a dozen levels removed from me. Some of you are going to be, you're going to be lifer 1,600 or 3,000, or maybe, influencer 15,000. You're going to be 5, 10, 12, 15 levels removed from those people. And then you'll be directly to me or 1 or 2 levels to me. And there's going to be people that hit those ranks that we don't even know yet that are going to be 4 or 5 or 6 levels removed from me. And then they're going to have hundreds, if not thousands of people that are 20 layers or 20 degrees of separation removed from me. My team of 365,000, I could track my layers, my lines, okay, of levels. All right. So it was a binary. So I could track it and see how many times it zigged and zagged. And to get to 365,000 people, it was over 3,000 levels. I think it eventually got to 4,000 levels. So that meant that it zigged and zagged from me, where I started my right and left, 4,000 times. Okay. So think about that. That meant that people that were signing up at the bottom of my right, at the bottom of my left, were 4,000 levels removed from me 13 years in. 4,000 levels removed from me. That's how many levels my binary was down. Whenever I clicked bottom right or bottom left, it was 4,000 levels. For sure over 3,000. I don't know where the number finally got, but over 3,000 levels removed. So you think about 6 degrees of separation right now. You guys have access to me. You have access to the leaders that we've been having on these calls, Ron Head and Denson and Lance and Tim and all these people that are working with us around the country to get this concept out there and make it grow. And so you have direct access to the people who are literally building it and that are in the trenches and that are working. So here's the problem. As the company grows, and we've just doubled in size in 60 days, I told you that we've averaged 10 to 15% company growth week over week for basically 8 weeks. You need to break down the averages. Okay, we've doubled over the last 8 weeks. So that's averaging 10 to 15% total growth in a week over the entire company. All right. That's what we've been doing over the course of the last 8 weeks. So as we continue to grow, the problem is the new people that are coming in are going to be more removed. There's going to be more degrees of separation. So this is what creates the problem. And this is the biggest problem in the industry, like I said, because most people hear about network marketing in a major city first. Okay, so a lot of companies are based in Utah. A lot of companies are based in Dallas. There's companies that were based in the Midwest. So there's a few pockets of where these companies have started. And so they'll grow kind of there first. That's why you see Dallas on here, because I live in Dallas and, and my partner lives in Dallas. And so that's one of the reasons why you see Dallas, because we're here. And then, some of the leaders that we talked to at the very beginning, that's why markets in the Northeast and then, in Atlanta and in Houston and in Memphis are growing because of the people we talked to first. And so you're lucky that you're in those markets where you're hearing about this first, because normally it starts in a city, it grows, and then pockets will start to pick up. And see, right now, we're about 85 to 90% US. We have another 10 to 15% of our members outside of the US. Japan, Canada, some onesies, twosies in, 20 different countries, all right? The UK, South Africa, and so Colombia, and that will continue to grow. And then there's going to be a day at some point where there's as many people outside of the US as there are inside of the US. And think about that. That means that there's going to be a bunch of people on your team because you're in now, and everything that grows around the world has to start with us. So that means that you have an opportunity with a business that's globally, that has no borders, no boundaries, no trade restrictions, no tariffs, no products, can you imagine, as a product-based network marketing company right now that's operating internationally, the type of stress you might be under, or your ownership or your company? I mean, everybody is dealing with this, right? This is a new global system that's happening in front of our eyes, and we don't have to worry about any of that. And we can do business anywhere apps can be downloaded. So it's all got to start with us. That means people here today are going to be the genesis of 50 countries around the world for Bryte Lyfe. You could have an entire country under you. You could have hundreds of thousands. There were some people in my previous company that had hundreds of thousands of people in Asia because they were one of the first people to sign somebody up in Asia. Hundreds of thousands from one person, okay? And so that's what starts to happen. So this is the problem. The further you are from the information, right? The further you are from the success story. We talked about how third-party validation is so important, how the getting the expert on the phone and proving the concept and answering those two questions. Can I do this and will it work? It's easier now because you have closer access, your closer proximity to me and to all those leaders that I've been mentioning on the call today. And so because you have close proximity to these leaders that are getting results, and you have access to Denson and DeAndre and, Ron Head and Tim Dominy and all these people, Lance Wren and Tim Devine, all these people that have hit all these ranks, you have access to them. But a year from now or 2 years from now, you may not. Your people may be 20 levels removed or 30 levels removed or 50 levels removed, or you may be one of those leaders and your new people are going to be 50 levels removed from you. So the solution for us in my previous company was we created an event culture and a culture centered around training. Okay. And so when we started, we launched the company in October of 2005. Okay. We had our first event in December of 2005. And at that event in December 2005 in Vegas, we announced that we were going to do a monthly acceleration training, is what we called it. We brought in somebody to help us run the training. He and I created the entire calendar, the entire schedule. We talked about it. We planned it out. And then myself and a couple of other people, we trained at all of these events. Okay. And so what happened was we did one every month in a different city. So every month we would do an acceleration in a different city. So what I did, this is what I did, and I want to teach you this today because for the first 12 months of that company, my team personally, my team represented probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 80% of the entire company volume. 80%. And it came because of what I'm about to teach you, what I'm about to share with you. And the reason is because it solved one of the biggest problems in network marketing, which is when you hear about a company from your cousin, from your friend, from your family member, from your coworker, they're not a Denson Taylor. They're not a Tim Dominic. They're not a DeAndre Somerville. They're not a Ann Jones. They're not a, I mean, they're just the average person that may put one person in or two people in, or maybe they don't put anybody in. Okay. And because our model is so attractive, we're going to sign up tons of people that have never signed up for network marketing before. In fact, I would challenge you that probably some of you now already have signed up people that have never done network marketing before. We're able to get people attracted to Bryte Lyfe because this is the most non-MLM MLM that's ever existed. In fact, it was funny. One of the guests on Thursday night at our event in Dallas at the Foundation Room, he's like, at the end of the presentation, he comes up to me and goes, so is this network marketing? That's when you know that you're doing it right and you're explaining it right in a way that is 2025 and not 2005, to where people are like, man, I've not seen something like this. I've not seen a concept like this. So what's going to happen is you're going to be able to get your people past the person who brought them in and straight to the source. See, this was the solution. This was the secret, because my team was putting in hundreds of people a month within the first several months. Okay. So as I'm putting in hundreds, I couldn't train them all. I couldn't talk to them all. Before I had probably, and I've talked about this on past calls, up until I had probably about 500 people on my team, about 500-ish, probably, which was almost the third rank. So you had to get about 900 to get to about the third rank, 900 customers. And that third rank, RMD, okay, was because it was about $3,000 a month type income with 900 people. Okay. So up until I had about 500, I was able to keep up with pretty much everybody on my team. I knew their kids. I knew where they lived. I'd been in most of their houses. And you're like, well, Wes, how did you, I mean, how could you possibly know 500 people? Part of the reason is because we only built with live events. Okay. And so that's one of the things that I've been talking about. And I think it's a really big opportunity for us is we've got to be doing more live events. And that's one of the reasons I asked Tiffany to talk about things she was doing with her team last week, because you need to be doing stuff that's fun. In fact, excuse me. In fact, Denson and I talked about this week. And that is that if the business does not seem like it's fun to you, because Denson and Tim were driving somewhere in Georgia and we were laughing. They were like, we're on the road again. And they said, we haven't done this in years. We're having fun. And I said, that's how you know you're doing it right. You know you're doing this business right when it doesn't feel like work, when you're having fun. But the problem is that, in my opinion, anything you do by yourself, honestly, is not fun, right? So this is a team sport. This is one of the reasons why when I took about 3.5, 4 years out of the industry, why I was missing it so much was because of this, the camaraderie, the culture, the events, the group trips, the memories, helping people, mentoring people. Like these were all the things that I was doing. I was kicking butt in real estate. When I got out of the industry, in 2018 into 2017, I did really well in real estate. I mean, I was making a ton of money, and I was completely out of the industry. But these were the things that I missed. And so the live events were why I knew my team so well, because we were doing stuff together. I was traveling to all the markets, just like Denson and Tim are, and some of the other leaders are, Tim Devine and Lance, and a lot of people are traveling to their markets and doing events in their markets. And that's why they're having extra success. It's why they're having extra growth. It's the extra work that you're putting in. The Zooms are going great. And I appreciate all of you plugging in and using the Zooms and your energy. And I would love to have all of you on there all the time. But there's no replacement for that culture building. Hang on one second, guys. I'm going to. Okay. So picking back up where we left off, the big thing that I was trying to get across is that as you're doing events together and as you're doing team night out and you're doing a potluck or spending time with your team, you're going to get to know them. So as I'm building my team in the beginning, I know everybody. I know everybody's kids. I know where they live. I've been in their houses. I did tons of travel parties, tons of launch events. The Zoom didn't exist back then. There was no such thing as Zoom. We did some conference calls, but that was very minimal. It was all live events. So it was a little bit different dynamic. This is one of the reasons why I'm encouraging you guys to use your live events as well. But here's what started to happen. As we started doing these accelerations, these trainings, okay, I literally made poster board, all right? And I put every single person on my team, right and left, didn't matter. I never looked at my sides. A lot of people in binaries, they call it the pay leg or the power leg. I never used those terms because I was building both. I never got a single sale of spillover. So 365,000 sponsored number 2 to the company. And because my team was growing so much and growing so fast, I never got any spillover. So there was no such thing for me. So 365,000 people, all lineage to me, no spillover. And so I had to build both. So to me, I always worked with everyone. I didn't just work with my pay leg. And this isn't really as big a deal right now because we're just getting started. Some of you are just starting to hit rank, but I will encourage you. It's a good way to build your business to work with both teams because you never know when it's going to flip. And so that means like if you're in a lucky position right now and one of your sides is growing not because of you and you're just taking it for granted and you're like, man, look at this other side. It's awesome. And you're not working with those people. You're not plugging in and doing stuff with them. That is a huge mistake because it might be your big leg today. Okay. And that's what they call the power leg. And then your small leg is the pay leg. That's what a lot of people in the industry refer to them as. But you never know when it might flip. So there were people, I watched them, that considered themselves leaders, that they only worked with their pay leg, and that they would treat their other leg, their big leg, like you don't matter as much, or, I'm not going to help you. I'm not going to do meetings. I'm not going to work with you. But what happened is they got to a point where it flipped. One leader comes in, one person comes in that blows your business up, you can flip like that. I mean, it happened all the time, but it was sad because I saw people who didn't work with one side, didn't work with one leg, and it was a lot of spillover, so it was coming from above. They didn't ever bother to meet those people or work with them or do one-on-ones or two-on-ones or spend time with them. And then that became their pay leg. It flipped. And then they had to basically go try to meet all those people because if they would have been working with them and building systems with them and creating events and supporting them and plugging in, even though you might not be growing your rank on that side today, it could flip and you never know. So for me, anytime I did any of this stuff that I'm talking to you about, I never looked at which side was bigger or which side was my pay leg and which side wasn't. In fact, one of my sides was massively larger than the other one because I didn't really understand the comp plan in the beginning, even though I helped build the company. And I was brand new. I was only 26. I'd only been in the industry a year when we started the company. So I made a mistake of putting all my people on one side and never got any spillover or sales from the other side. And so I had to kind of restart. And so that was my problem, but I never treated those people differently. In fact, that's where I spent the majority of my time, because in our comp plan, we had to have a rank requirement where we had to have people that we introduced rank up in order to hit rank on top of what the sides were. We had to have it tied to a specific person that we introduced. It was called lineage. It was crazy. Tons of hoops that you had to jump through. Plus, they paid out a tenth of what we're paying out. And some of the early levels, we're paying out 15 times what that company paid out. So what I did was I took this poster board, okay, and I put boxes on it. I used other poster boards. So I bought like, I don't know, 6 or 8 of the poster boards, just the regular school white poster boards. And I would use one of them and I would draw lines and I would make a grid, okay? So I took my team at the size. And so the first one of these I made would have been probably like in probably February of 2006. Okay. And so you could probably, some of you could probably figure out a way to do this on the computer or something, but I'm old school. I like paper. I have paper all over my desk. I like writing stuff down, and I like the poster boards. And so I created the poster board with grids. And so the first one probably had like 100 boxes on it, maybe 120, 150, maybe 200 in that first couple of months from our launch event in December, because we pre-launched in October and then officially launched in December. So it'd been like 2 months. I already had probably a couple hundred people on my team. So the first boxes I made had 200 on the grid. So it looked like an Excel spreadsheet. Okay. So when we announced in December at our launch event that we were going to be doing these accelerations, the first one was a couple months later. So February, March. So what I did at that event is I made the first poster board as soon as I got home, and it had however many boxes it had on it. And literally there was no ticket tracking system. We were having to sign up for these accelerations by faxing them in. Okay. So I would ask people to tell me or email me a copy of their sign up form for the acceleration when they faxed it in, and tell me that they signed up. And then I would have people text me sometimes, because that was like early texting too, when they signed up. So as soon as they signed up for the acceleration, I put their name in one of the boxes. So I had a box for everybody on my team. And then as my team grew, I added additional boxes. So I was always adding boxes. So some of the poster boards, I flipped them over and did more grids on the back. So as we're signing people up, and this also helped me learn my team. It helped me know who they were and who signed them up. It didn't matter if they were personals. I did it for my entire team. And I wanted to get my entire team to the acceleration, to the training, because I knew that would eliminate all of those 6 degrees of separation. It would allow the average person to have success, because no matter who signed them up, if they came to the training, if they came to the event, they were going to see the top reps. They were going to see the company executives. They were going to see our trainer. They were going to hear guest speakers. I knew that they would get the information that they needed to be successful. And so what I did was, in the beginning, those accelerations, and this is the funny part that is not coincidental. Okay. I told you for that first year or so, my organization was about 80% of the company's total sales volume, total revenue. It was about 80%. Okay. And then then as other teams started growing and other people started coming in that were not on my team, then that number changed over time. But in the beginning, the reason why my results what they were is because I came from Cutco, and in Cutco, we depended on our summer conferences to boost sales. We had these sales competitions, and they did them in the summer, and Cutco would do about 75 to 80%. So remember, we're going back to that 80-20 rule, which is really probably in people like 99-1. You're the 1%ers. But it's no coincidence that my team was 80% of the volume, that my team was 80% of the room in those early accelerations. 80% of the room was my team. Okay. And then in Cutco at our events in the summer, Cutco did 80% of their volume, their sales revenue. And this was a company doing a couple hundred million a year back then when I was involved in the late 90s, in those summer conferences. So those conferences created 80% of their sales volume for the entire year. So Cutco through vector marketing would do 80% of their volume in the months of May, June, July, August. Okay, so basically 4 months. So when you look at what those trends were that caused that, the event and the culture around the events created the results. When I broke all the records with Cutco, I had the most people at those summer conferences. I actually, when I was in San Antonio, my first year as a manager with Cutco, I was the first manager to do this. I actually rented Greyhound buses and took my students, okay, to those conferences by bus. No other manager, no other team was doing that. And we won that summer every one of those sales competitions. And we always had more people in the room. So to me, I knew that my success would be in direct proportion to how many people were plugged into the system, or how many people were plugged into the culture. And so when I started doing these poster boards in World Ventures, and when we created this acceleration training program, which was what I created with our director of training, and we created the calendar, we looked at the cities and figured out where we were going to do them. I knew that if I got my people to those events, my team would grow with or without me. See, because then they grow with or without you, with or without the source, because they literally leapfrog however many degrees of separation there is between the success, the story, the founders, the top reps, the guest speakers. You leapfrog through all those degrees of separation. So you could have somebody who heard about it from their cousin who never did anything, and maybe they quit after 2 months, but this person is on their inside leg somewhere, and they don't know Denson or Tim or DeAndre or Ron or any of these other people that have hit all these ranks over Linda, any of these people that have hit ranks over the last few weeks, George, they don't know them because they were signed up by somebody who was 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 signed up by somebody's cousin. And then their cousin didn't even stick it out. They quit after a couple months. But that person, all the way down here, multiple levels removed, 20, 30 levels removed from the success and the company and the stories and the power and the vision, they could literally leapfrog through all of those degrees of separation and get straight to the source. So what started to happen was, as we did those accelerations, every month I was putting people's names in those boxes, and I would draw an X with a highlighter. So I would put the name in the box when they signed up, and I would draw an X with a highlighter. So I could look at that poster board and I could see how many people were registered for the next acceleration. And I saw the names. So I knew every call that I got on, I knew who was registered. And so here's one of the things that I'm building for us because of this. In the next version of our software, you're going to see who on your team is registered for the next event. You're going to be able to see next to their names in our back office if your personal members and your team members are registered for the next event. It's going to say conference and it's going to have a check mark. So you're going to be able to know. And so you'll know, and you can contact these people, the ones that are not signed up. And here's what I did. I treated everybody in my team as if I was their sponsor. See, because the thing is that most people don't get lucky and have good sponsors like all of you that are on this training today. Most people are sponsored by somebody who dabbles. Like I said, it's a cousin, it's a brother, it's a friend, it's a neighbor, whatever. They don't do anything. They don't stick with it. They don't get to work with somebody like you. And so I treat everybody on my team as if I personally introduced them. I mean, I'll work with anybody. I'll work with any one of you. That's why I'm doing this mentorship group starting tomorrow night. In fact, I would encourage all of you to get on the mentorship group. You have nothing to lose, okay? I'm going to give you the blueprint. I'm going to treat you, walk you from step one, like I just signed you up, and try to put you on a path of $100,000 in residual income. That's the idea behind the mentorship. So I would encourage you to get on and get your people on it. If you sign new people up, even if they don't get on day one, have them get on the videos. I'm going to post them to my personal YouTube page and have them get in the group and join along the way. They don't have to be on every one, okay? The idea is get on as many as you can. Do the assignments, though, because I'm going to give you assignments. I'm going to tell you the things that you need to do, and it's important that you do them because doing them is what's going to create the results. And we're going to look at it. We're going to dissect it. I did it in the other mentorship group. And so getting people to the events and treating them like they're your personals, even though they may not be, you need to be concerned this week and this weekend, right? And that's why I wanted to talk about this today and give you really the secret. Well, how I got to 365,000 people, how, in my opinion, we got to $1 billion in revenue was because of those events. Because that meant that the average person could come in, no matter who their sponsor was, and if they plugged into those events, if they plugged into those trainings, if they came, they were not quitting. They were staying plugged in. They were staying engaged. They were gonna hit rank. And here's the numbers. So I monitored this for a year, okay? And I have all of my sales numbers, by the way, my entire left leg, right leg, every day for almost the first 3 years. I have them. In fact, I probably will do a message with this in Vegas. Okay, so I'm gonna make a note actually right now. I'm gonna show you my team growth, and I monitored it. And here's what I saw. Within 60 days of an acceleration, my team would put in 5 sales for every 1 person I had at the acceleration within 60 days. This is what the numbers were for the first year. And then it got harder for me to track because we didn't have any systems, none. I was doing all this manually with poster boards. So it got harder to track as my team got into the thousands. It got much harder to track. But they would give me one report from corporate that showed how many people in my lineage attended the event, because it got to the point where I didn't know. Obviously, people weren't sending me their signups, and I was, then I had a couple thousand people and then a few thousand, and then I was over 5,000. So I couldn't keep up with who was at the event. I knew that a lot of them were our team because we had, we kind of sat together and we had some team swag and some other stuff. And so, I knew that we were a large portion, but I didn't ever until after the event know what my real numbers were. But I tracked them when I could, and I have them here. And the numbers represented every time we did an acceleration within 60 days, we would put in five sales for every person that was at that acceleration. So that means you need to think about Vegas like this. If you have 5 people with you in Vegas, those 5 people will put in probably within 30 to 60 days, and it may even be 30, because we're going to be growing faster and we're more technology driven. And wait until you see version 2.0. The things that we're going to show you in Vegas are going to literally blow your mind. This company will not even resemble itself. The app, the website, none of it's going to look the same in less than 60 days. Okay? So when you leave it, I think that number will be much higher. It probably will be like 10, maybe even as high as 15. So that means if you get 5 people with you to Vegas, there's a potential that those 5 over the next 30 to 60 days will at a bare minimum put in 5 per person. And not everybody will do it. One will pop, 2 will pop. And so, but these are the averages. Okay. And I tracked it for a year, and this was 20 years ago with less technology. The product wasn't even anywhere near in the same stratosphere. So we have so many other things that are going for us that the numbers really could be 10 over the next 30 to 60 days coming out of Vegas. So if you get 5 people there, they could represent 50 sales over the next 30 to 60 days. And I think there's a chance that they could represent 5. If we're going to hit our numbers as a company, and with all the things we're investing in and spending money on, I wish I could tell you some of the benefit contracts and partners that are already signed that we're going to be sharing and introducing. It's very possible it's 15. So if you have 3 people with you, it's possible those 3 over the next 30 to 60 days after Vegas could put in 45 sales, right? But at a bare minimum, you got to know that it's going to be at least 15. So here's the problem. Every time I was at an acceleration, even though I had more people in the room than anybody else, you know who I was thinking about? At everyone. And it was the curse. I feel like I was cursed because literally at every acceleration, because of the poster board and because of my focus, at every acceleration, even though I was the majority of the room and the majority of the sales, and I was the first person to hit the top rank in the company in history, I was thinking about the people that weren't there every time. I was always on the front row, because I always did VIP and the leaders always sat on the front. And so I'm sitting there and I know there's tons of people behind me, and the meetings grew. First it was a few hundred, then it was a few thousand, then we eventually rented out Cowboys Stadium, AT&T Stadium. We had over 25,000 people at an event there for our convention in 2017. And so, of those 25,000, probably at that point, probably 20 to 25% of them were from my team. So of the 25,000, probably, I don't know, 10,000-ish, 7,500 were on my team, and the 25,000 in the stadium. And because there were teams in Asia and Europe that were not part of my organization. So we were at 3 million members and I had 365,000. But that is such a large percentage, but still I was cursed. Every time I was at the event, I was thinking about the people that weren't there. I was thinking about whose life could I have changed, whose financial future could be changed, whose kids. I mean, this is like, I don't think a lot of you realize what we have our hands on has the ability to literally change your family tree. One of my big things growing up, and people ask me a lot of times what motivates me. I wanted to be somebody that generationally in the future, people looked back and said, that was the guy who changed the Melcher family tree. He changed the direction because my family was very poor, and I'm very grateful. My grandparents were first generation American. They were born here before the Depression. Their families came from Germany and Czechoslovakia at the time. And so my grandparents were first generation. I was a third generation Melcher here in the US because my granddad was first, and then my dad, and then me. And so my part of my motivation for me and doing the things that I've done is I wanted to try to change my family tree, try to be the person that people would look at in the future and go back to, yeah, man, our great, great, great granddad, Wes Melcher, our great, great, great uncle, whatever, because we have the power to literally change your family tree for generations. I mean, I've already done this. I've already helped people do this. It's already started to happen. It's already happened for me. And so I've gotten a chance to see this firsthand. And so when I'm in Vegas in May, even though I know all of you are going to be there are going to be people that are not going to be there. There are going to be people that are on your team. There are going to be people that are part of your organization, part of the company, part of my organization, personals of mine that I've personally introduced that are not there. And I'm going to be thinking about those people. The other people that I'm thinking about in Vegas is the people that are not in yet, because I know how powerful Vegas is going to be. And I know the numbers of what's going to happen from the people that are there, meaning that if you're in Vegas, you're assuring yourself of success. It's guaranteed. And the more people you have in Vegas, you're going to be able to take those multipliers, 5, 10, possibly 15. And that means that if you can work hard this weekend and this week and over the next few weeks to get people registered for Vegas, every time you get somebody registered, whether they're your personal or not, that's why round 5 is to get 2 of your personals signed up for Vegas, because you need to dive into your business and look at your business as the CEO. You need to make the poster board. So if you've got 6 people on your team right now, when we're done today, I would encourage you to take a sheet of paper or go get a poster board at the corner store or CVS or Walgreens or whatever, they've got them, and go draw your chart. And as your people are signing up, okay, you've got access to your team. If you log into your back office, you can see them, you can talk to them. They don't have to be your personals. I would make it a goal every day this week to try to communicate with people on your team about Vegas. Because here's the thing, they're going to be blown away, not just by the tech, not just by, the speakers, the leaders, but it's going to be the 1 year anniversary. Talk about confidence. I mean, we're doing 3 VIP parties in Vegas, Memorial Day weekend. We're doing Atomic Golf, which is brand new, which we have the entire VIP area reserved. Think about if you're bringing people that are brand new. You're bringing somebody, maybe even some of you, I've heard some of you are bringing prospects because you've invited people to come with you Memorial Day weekend. We promoted this a couple months ago when we announced it, to book rooms with your friends and tell your friends you're going to Vegas Memorial Day weekend, and it's not too late to do that. You could post that this weekend. People are going to be in Vegas this weekend for March Madness, and they've been going to Vegas, and people want to know about Vegas and want deals. So post on your social media, you're going to Vegas for Memorial Day weekend. Who wants to join you? You can use this as a way to recruit. Okay. But I'm telling you, you're going to be cursed like I am if you understood what the real reason why World Ventures got to $1 billion. Because of the culture, because of the trainings. Because what that meant was we eliminated all of those degrees of separations. And they got so big and the company grew so fast that eventually we had to go to quarterly events. We couldn't do them every month because our leaders were going to a different city every single month. They were paying for a flight, they were paying for a hotel, they were paying a couple $100 for the training. And we were doing that every month. And so eventually it became quarterly. And so we did a quarterly event, and that's why we're following that exact same schedule. In Vegas, we're going to announce the next quarterly event. So you'll be able to register for that. And always at the event, you register for the next event. So this is where you go. And I have 2 chapters in my book talking about this. The first one is event to event management. And then I talk about the culture that you're building and how to build culture inside of your team using events and spending time together. Some of the stuff Tiffany talked about last week. But I'm telling you, the reason why we did $4 billion in revenue was directly tied to our training and our culture, because people were locked in, because they went to these trainings, they went to these events, and we're doing them in Miami, in Vegas, at the Atlantis, and Tulum. I mean, that's where we've done our first trips and events. Okay. My last company didn't. We were doing stuff in Glendale, St. Louis, Newark, I mean, it was not anywhere people were excited to go. Okay. It wasn't Vegas all the time. We did some events in Vegas, and those were our biggest ones because it was an easy draw. We did Glendale, we did Newark, we did St. Louis, Birmingham. I mean, it was not an easy sale to get people to fly, drive, get hotels, be away from their families and friends to go to Birmingham, or no offense for those of you that may live there, no offense, but it's not easy to sell people on a weekend in Birmingham. And so getting them to Vegas, getting them to Miami, getting them to the Atlantis, that's easy. And so, but it's about having that CEO mentality and looking at your team and looking at your business and having the boxes and making sure you're checking the boxes off, because you're going to be able to track the numbers. So if you get 10 people to Vegas, you're going to put in 50 sales in the 30 to 60 days after Vegas minimum, probably potential to do 100, and some of you 150 if you get 10 people there with you. But if you go to Vegas with one person with you, that means that over the next 30 to 60 days, chances are your team is going to be putting in 5 people. And I know some of you may be sitting here right now, and it's like, well, Wes, I've got 30 or 40 people or 50 people already on my team, but we don't need to go to Vegas, or I'm not signed up for Vegas, or maybe you don't agree with what I'm saying and you don't believe me. I'm just telling you, just wait and watch what the numbers are. Watch the teams that take this training today to heart, and they go get their people together. They get the teams together. They follow the program. They get people registered for Vegas, and they get part of the mentorship program tomorrow. You're going to see people that are plugged in and that are engaged. You're going to see them leapfrog all of the teams that are not plugging in and that are not coming to Vegas and that are not following the program. I'm telling you, because this was the secret. This is how we took the company to $1 billion. It wasn't about the product, because our product was not good at all, especially after the first year or two. It was terrible. It was all about the culture. It was about the training. It was people could come and hear from the experts and hear from the leaders, and those people acted as like a virtual upline, virtual sponsor, virtual mentor because they had access to this training and information. So I want to encourage you this weekend to call everybody on your team, not just your personals, but everyone, and talk to everyone about Vegas, because on Sunday night, tomorrow night at midnight, the tickets go up. Okay. Then it's more expensive. All right. And you've got an opportunity to get these signups over the next 24 to 48 hours before the ticket sales go up and get people engaged. And once they're engaged and once they're signed up, now they're mentally committed. Get people to book their rooms, get people to book their flights. If they're tight on funds, okay, go to get them to book whatever it is that they can afford to do. So if you're worried about the flights going up, or book a hotel that you can pay at the hotel. It might not be the same savings, but at least lock your room in and do a pay at hotel rate. Okay. But there are a lot of things that you can do this weekend and before the prices go up. And then after they go up, it is what it is. They're still less than what it was for us to go to the accelerations. Our acceleration tickets 20 years ago were $199. So, you can get VIP for that. And you sit in the first two rows with all of the top leaders and the executives and the corporate team. And so, I would encourage you to get VIP if you can swing it. Those are going to be the best seats in the house. You're going to get direct access to everything. And I tell everybody those are the money seats, right? The people that are sitting at the front, those are always the ones making the most money. And so that's where you want to be. You want to be plugged in. And when you're plugged in, you want to be as close to the information as possible. And so I really wanted to talk about that today because that is going to be the thing that takes us to $1 billion. It's going to be, we will be an event culture, a team building culture. We're going to have this ability for people that join a year from now or 2 years from now or 3 years from now to plug into all of you, because you are the future leaders. You are the leaders currently, but you're going to be the high level future leaders because you're following the system. You're following the program. You're plugging in. You're a 1%er. And so you're going to be the ones that people are going to be 10, 12, 15, 20 levels removed from a year from now or 2 years from now. And they're going to be able to get to you because you're going to be speaking at the trainings. You're going to be speaking at the events. You're going to be on stage getting recognized. We're going to be giving away Rolexes. We're going to be giving away all-inclusive trips for our influencer 15,000s and above. You're going to see videos from those trips. I mean, we're going to be doing more promotions, more contests. I mean, the culture is going to be unreal, but you have to be a part of it. You have to plug in. It's just like a light bulb. A light bulb doesn't work unless it's plugged in. A machine does not work. A Coke machine, a vending machine, any kind of something that creates or puts out does not create or put out unless it's plugged in. It's got to have the power. It's got to have the juice. It's got to have the energy. And I'm telling you, Vegas is going to be that. This is your opportunity to 5X, 10X, 15X, however many people you get to Vegas. Make your poster boards, treat everybody on your team as if you are their enroller, as if you are their sponsor, as if they are your mentee and you are the mentor. Take control of your business, run it like a CEO, track it, track your results, track your progress. I also had one of these same poster boards for my rank. So however many sales I needed left and right, I had LR and I had 2 poster boards on the wall. So I had the boxes, and as I brought in sales, I put X's. So I put X's in the boxes. I had LR, 2 poster boards on there so I could see it. I would remember. Sometimes I wrote the people's names in the boxes if I remembered to. And so it helped me manage my team. It helped me learn my team. It helps me grow. It helped me focus. It allowed me to look at my goals, look at my numbers. I realized if we had a good day or bad day, I'm like, man, I didn't put any X's today. Why not? What can we do to get more sales on the weekend? What can we do to get more sales on Tuesday and Wednesday? What can we do to, finish the week stronger? What can we do to start the week stronger? Who can I get onto the Sunday night Zoom that maybe is not plugging in? Because see, here's the thing. When you start to see where your sales are coming from and what day of the week they're coming in, it allows you to run your business like a CEO so you can see when it's happening, where it's happening, where the growth is. It allows you to have almost a 30,000 foot overview of your organization. So if you're not putting X's on your board, if you're not putting sales in, you need to be the creator. You need to be the one that's creating the results. And so by doing these poster boards, you can track your event attendance, you can track your sales and your rank. You can see what day of the week they're coming in. You can see who's putting them in. Is it on the left side? Is it on the right side? And so it allows you to run your business like a CEO. So think like a CEO. I'm telling you, today, this was $1 billion secret. If you understand the power of what's going to happen, and I've seen some chats like, every time, you go to an event, you learn, you grow. And thank you, Tammy, for saying that. Other people have chimed in as well. I'm just telling you, this is what is going to take us to 1 billion. And this is what's going to help us get to that number of 25,000 by the end of the year. Because the more people we have in Vegas, the more sales we're going to put in the 30 to 60 days following. And that will lead us to our next event, which we're going to announce in Vegas. And that's going to blow your mind. That's going to be an easy sale. It's going to be an incredible event as well. So you don't want to miss the events. You don't want to miss the opportunities to be with your team, to plug in, to get results, to remove the degrees of separation and allow your people to plug directly into the source of confidence, success, history, track record, belief, energy, confidence. All of those things will be elevated coming out of Vegas, and this will be the thing that takes us to 1 billion. So have a great weekend. Talk to your teams about tickets going up tomorrow night at midnight. I'm about to put these trainings up. It may may wind up being in 2 parts because I had to pause it. But if not, you'll see the training today. And then on top of that, we're going to be doing the first mentorship call tomorrow night after our corporate call. Remember, the corporate calls are not recorded. You've got to be on there to win for the drawings. So make sure your team is getting on those Sunday night calls. That's where we're doing our recognition as well. They're short, easy, and it's a good way to start the week off. And there's no basketball games tomorrow night. So invite for that 8 o'clock Central, 9 o'clock Eastern Zoom. The Sunday night Zooms have been some of the best. And so thank you so much for everybody that got on here today and plugged in and stayed engaged. And apologize for my voice. I'm excited. I don't know if it was the Red Bull I was drinking or what, but appreciate you guys being here today. We'll see everybody tomorrow night. And congrats again on our biggest month ever. Records are falling every single week. Sales are growing and exploding. And I can't wait to see all of you in Vegas. Have a great weekend and God bless.